Are you a businesswoman who is finding it challenging to get your ideas across and make a point? Welcome to Speakers Who Get Results with Elizabeth Bachman, a podcast dedicated to helping women get the visibility they want, whether making a speech or talking in a meeting. Every week, get valuable lessons from Elizabeth or learn from her roundtable conversations with experts and speakers on how to make a difference, not just a point. On to the show with your host, Elizabeth Bachman.
Hello and welcome to Speakers Who Get Results. This is the podcast where we interview experts on how you can move your listeners to take action. We talk about leadership and presentation skills and visibility. I'm Elizabeth Bachman, your host, and I'm happy to have you here with me today. And before we begin, I want to invite you to come take our free assessment at speakforresultsquiz.com. That's www.speakforresultsquiz.com. And that's where you can see where your presentation skills are great and where maybe you could use a little bit of help. Today, I am the expert, and I want to talk to you about dealing with objections, 3 strategies to get the sale. Have you ever heard, wow, that's really great, but it's just too expensive? Or how about, yeah, seems like it would be a good thing for me to do, but I just don't have time. Or maybe you're the prospective customer and there's an inner voice in your head that says, sounds great for her, but I don't think that'll work for me. Those are the 3 examples of the 3 main objections that people get when you're trying to close a sale. And I should say that in these days when the economy is a little uncertain, it's also important for reasons where people don't want to continue working with you. Maybe you have a current customer who's saying, I need to cut expenses, I can't pay you as much, or maybe I work with you, but for less, could I, get the same amount for just half price? That's happening a lot. I've had a lot of people say that to me. The key is not to quit when that first happens, not to quit. The key is think about strategies you can use to get past no and make the sale. Now I'm going to invite you to get a pen and paper and write this down, because I'm going to be giving you ideas that have cost me thousands when I've forgotten them and saved me thousands when I've actually remembered to use them. Now, when I say objections, I really mean the concerns that come up when you're in the middle of an enrollment conversation. Anytime, the concerns that come up anytime someone is asked to stretch out of their comfort zone. I started with these examples of the standard objections that come up when you ask for the sale. The first 2 are examples of money and time. It's too expensive, or I don't have time to do it. The third example I called the success objection. And by that, I mean that's when they're thinking, fine for you, easy for you to say, but it would never work for me. People will say the first 2 out loud. The third one is usually an inner objection, and they won't say it out loud. They'll just think it. At least when you're in the US or Japan or Great Britain or any of the countries where people don't like to say no. When I work in Germany and Austria, people just say no out loud. It's very refreshing. You want to use this when you are an enrollment conversation, making a sale. Also, as I said earlier, when you have customers who are saying, I need to cut costs and I can't afford you anymore, or maybe I can't use you as much. You want to move, you're still moving your listeners to take action. And in my book, this is all still presentation skills to get a result. The problem is that when one person asks another to open their wallet, there's an automatic pushback. And this is a good thing because it keeps us from investing in things that we don't really need to invest in. However, for those of us who put food on the table by selling a product or a service, dealing with objections is an important part of life. Since this is such a fundamental part of the enrollment conversation, of course, there have been thousands and thousands of words written about it. Salespeople get past these concerns by pushing and bulldozing a customer into making a sale. These are the people who give sales a bad name. On the other hand, I see so many people who, the first time a customer objects, they retreat. They take no for an answer. They want to be liked, or they might be stuck in their own scarcity mentality that when somebody says, I don't have the money, they say, that's right, I don't have the money either. I get it. So here's a thought. It is a customer's job, especially when times are tight. It is somebody's job to ask for a discount. It is not your job to give it. It is a judgment call. When things are tight and budgets are being cut, then indeed it is the customer's job to look for any place they can cut. If you can convince the customer of the value of what you provide, of what you do for them, you can persuade them not to cut you. So that's what this conversation is about. It's dealing with these objections and getting past no so that you can make the sale or keep the client. Because if we don't have sales, how do we have a functioning business, right? My intention today is to show you 3 strategies for dealing with objections in a speech or an enrollment conversation. These are strategies you may not have thought of. Certainly, I don't see these strategies being talked about in the articles I read. These strategies are, before you make your offer, something I like to call the yeah, but, which is the moments during your conversation when little concerns come up. And yes, I will be talking about how to navigate any concerns that may come once you have made your offer. The first strategy is counter objections before they come up. Write that down. Counter objections before they come up. As anybody who has been in a sales as a product or service or an idea that they're trying to sell or they're going to try to get buy-in from somebody, again, we might have the 3 objections of money, time, or success. It'll cost too much to do it, it'll take too much time, or that'll never work. However, most people, when they present their material or their idea, they wait until the prospect actually states an objection before coming back to it. What if you pre-framed it? What if you told a story as you are talking about this service that would counter the objection before it actually came up? Then, of course, if somebody has an objection, you could say, well, it's like the story I just told. What I'm going to do for you now is tell the story I often say when I talk about how I came to being a presentation skills trainer, how I learned the value of speaking to get results. See if you can find where I've put in places that counter objections before they come up. Here's how I learned the value of public speaking. I've been dedicated to the art of great communication since I first walked on stage at the age of 5. And when my mom said I was the best darn bunny rabbit who ever graced the stage of the Hillside School, I was hooked. I went from acting to directing opera singers, to running a program for training opera singers, to now helping business professionals get results when they make a presentation. All along as an actor and as a director, I wanted to run a company of my own. And about 10 years ago, actually about 15 years ago now, I got the opportunity. I was asked to create a summer opera training program in the Austrian Alps. Woohoo! The hills are alive with the sound of music. I was going to spend the summer in the mountains making music. The only teeny weeny little problem was that I had to raise $100,000 to launch it. And to do that, I had to give speeches. And although I'd been on stage and I'd been telling stories my whole life, this was the first time that I had to ask for money for me, for my idea, my company, my dream. And I didn't have results to show yet. This was still just an idea. I was terrified. I was terrified to ask for the money. And frankly, at first, I was terrible. What saved me was finding a mentor. A woman who was a speaker trainer and liked opera came to one of my fundraising events. And she called me up the next day and said, you know, there are some techniques you could use that would help you get better results. I had no idea. There were tools, there were techniques for public speaking, for speaking to get people to open their wallets, to speaking to get donations, speaking to get a sale. I had no idea there were tools and techniques. I was just making it up as I went along. And she showed me that I wasn't wrong. I wasn't stupid. I just didn't know what I didn't know. And I realized I had to get expert help. After all, if your car needs to be fixed, do you open up the hood and just wing it? No, you go to an expert. I knew I needed an expert mentor to teach me how to get the results I needed. I didn't know where I was going to find the money to pay her. I certainly wasn't in my budget, but I knew that my commitment to the people who needed my help had to be greater than my fear. So I found the money. I scrounged around. I raised the money to hire her, and it was the best decision I ever made. That mentor, that speaker trainer, taught me how to get the results I needed. I raised that $100,000 and the $50,000 it took every year after that to run the company. The Tyrolean Opera program ran for 11 years, and we changed lives. Did you hear how I answered some objections during that story? If you did, shoot me a message on Facebook or LinkedIn, or wherever it is you're listening to this podcast. If you didn't hear where I did it, then please send me a message and I will show you how I did that. I'll take it apart for you. The first strategy is counter objections before they come up by telling a story. The second strategy is don't ignore the yeah, but moments. You know how you hear somebody talking and a little part of you goes, yeah, but what about these? This is the sort of thing that makes for lively conversations with your friends. It's what makes for good debates. But my business is all about strategic speaking for results. People hire me to help them make presentations that produce a result that move their people to take a desired action. The yeah, but moments are the little pullbacks, the little distractions that can build to a big distraction when you make your call to action. Smoothing out the yeah, buts or answering the yeah, but moments before you get to when you're actually going to make your offer is like smoothing out the little stumbling blocks along the road to making a decision. The listener might not consciously notice it, but it makes the pathway easier. Now, did you have a little feeling of like I was manipulating when I said that last bit, leading people down the path towards making a decision? If you had kind of a pullback, that's a yeah, but. That's the sort of thing that people object to. The solution is to call it out and answer it immediately. For instance, If I were to use the metaphor towards leading something on the path to make a decision, and let's call it what it is, it's the path to a decision to making a sale, I might follow up with what I just said. You might think this is manipulative, but I invite you to focus on the end result. If you truly believe that your service, your product, your company will do the right thing, that your listener will benefit from investing with you or saying yes to your idea, then it's your right, your privilege, your responsibility to help them make that decision. You're actually doing a service by helping somebody invest in something that will improve their lives or the life of the company. Doesn't that feel better? Instead of picturing a dark and gloomy pathway that you're leading somebody down towards something terrible, I'm helping you realize that this is a service that you're offering. Of course, if you didn't feel resistance to that metaphor, I've just given you a picture of why a sales conversation might not be a good thing. Hopefully, I've given you an empowering image instead. The key is to address these small concerns before they take root and turn into big concerns. Now, there's an important part of this, which is it's really, really, really hard to find the yeah, but moments in your own material. These that you really need to have somebody else listen, a trusted associate or especially a speaker trainer. This is a huge piece of what I do with my clients. I help them notice the yeah, but moments by putting myself in the mind of the listener, in the position of the listener, and see where I might feel a little bit of resistance. We all know when we're recounting our own material, when we're talking about the stuff that we know and we're confident with, there are a lot of little mini assumptions that we make. It takes fresh ears and fresh eyes to find these moments. This is actually a benefit from my many years in the performing arts. As an actor, it's your job to put yourself into the mindset of the character you're portraying. As a director, you put yourself in the mindset of all of them. As a presenter, whether it's within a company or it's on stage or it's one-on-one, it's your job to make it about them, your listeners. Put yourself into their mindset and try to imagine how they are going to take in the information that you're giving. The third strategy is probably the one that you probably tuned in to hear. What do you do when you make an offer and the potential customer objects? Some people call it overcoming objections, or you could think of it as a game. It's just, think of it as a way of asking for more information. An objection just means that they don't know enough. They aren't informed enough. I don't really think of it as competition. I think of it as engaging in conversation. If you find yourself being derailed at this point in the process, remember, it's a process. When you've pre-framed any possible concerns by telling stories, that shows that there really aren't problems, and you can refer back to the story. When you've resolved those little yeah, but moments, you still might need to go deeper into the concerns your listener may have. Now, don't forget, sometimes you might be surprised. The other day, I spoke with a client who knew exactly what she wanted, and she knew she wanted that support from me. So she said yes right away. I was all set to engage in concerns and deal with the objections. I was so ready for her to object that it startled me for a second. And then I took her credit card, and we've got some really cool stuff coming up. Here are some things you can say. On a scale from 1 to 10, how committed are you to taking action or solving this problem? That's important, because if they're anything below an 8, then it's probably not important enough. It might be a need that you see, but if it's not a need that they perceive, if it's not high up on their priority, they're not going to buy. Then you're just going to say, thank you, and keep the relationship going, keep them in a nurture campaign. Another thing to say is, if we were to work together, what would you see yourself getting? And then make sure you use their words. Get them to say what the benefit would be to work with you or to use your company, and then use their words to come back. You said that you wanted to be a better speaker. You said you wanted to get better results. You can use their phrasing, and they will take it in because it's their language. You can also follow up with, before I share the investment with you, or before we talk about the price, do you have any further questions? Because you always want to make sure that you've got their answers. You want to make sure that you've dissolved any concerns they may have before you actually get to stating the price. Another great thing you can say is, if they state their concern, then you can say, can I ask you a question about that? Remember, this is a chance to continue the conversation. Lucky you. You get to go deeper and help someone get past their internal blocks. Now, I'm using trainer language here, but this also works with selling a product, and it really works in selling an idea within your company. It's still about addressing the concerns of human beings that keep them from taking the action that you believe is best for them. If you say, can I ask you a question about that? That opens the option to discuss further. Be sure you get a yes here. Make sure that they have bought in to continuing. The concern will probably be about money, time, or success. If somebody has the success objection, like, that'll never work for me, or that's only for those who are richer, better looking, have more training within a company, that'll say that'll be, might be for a big company, but not for us. As a coach, what I often say is, this is the best chance for you to get past your gremlins. What if today was the day you took a stand? What if today was the day you stopped your fears from getting in the way? It's not about signing up with me. It's about you realizing that you can invest in yourself through working with me. This is about you, and so on. Of course, this is coaching language, trainer language. If you've got questions about how to use this around a product or within a company, just contact me and we can go through that. Now, if time was an issue, ask them, or you can ask them, if time wasn't an issue, would you do this? If the answer is yes, then start finding ways to make it work. If they're not sure, keep digging. Remind them of the reasons why they said, when you asked them, they wanted what they said they would get when they wanted to work with you. And then, of course, money. That's the one that comes around the most. You can always say, if money wasn't an issue, would you do this? If yes, then start finding ways to make it work. If you, I had a conversation with a client of mine who was trying to convince her boss to do something that was going to help the program, help the company. And the boss said, we've been doing fine. And the thing that worked with them was, my client said, if we don't take this action, we may be okay with the customers we have, but when they're done with their work, when they're done with the project, they're not going to sign up again. And we're not going to get new people because our competitors are making this change and we are not. When she phrased it in terms of the cost of not taking action, she got what she needed to do. If they're not sure if money's the issue, keep digging. Again, remind them of the reasons they were interested. Use their words. There's so much more I could say about this, but I'm out of time now. So just remember, objections and concerns are a natural part of an enrollment conversation, whether it's within a company or you're speaking to a group or you're speaking one-on-one. The first strategy is to address those concerns through stories, Second thing that's crucial is be sure that you can answer the yeah, but moments. And third is to don't take no for an answer. Keep digging. Keep finding out what the real reason is. Treat it as an opportunity. This has been Strategic Speaking, the Speakers Who Get Results. I'm Elizabeth Bachman of Strategic Speaking for Results. If you're interested in pursuing any of the topics that we talked about today, please take my free assessment at speakforresultsquiz.com. That's www.speakforresultsquiz.com. It takes about 3 or 4 minutes, and you can see where you are rocking your presentation skills and where maybe you could use a little bit support. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'll see you on the next one.
We have just concluded another great episode of Speakers Who Get Results with your host, Elizabeth Bachman. If you got value from today's episode, please feel free to share us with your friends and colleagues. You may also visit elizabethbachman.com for additional resources. Be sure to tune in every week for new episodes, and thanks for tuning in.